Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. This is comic book haul number 51. Been able to get quite a few books since the last comic book haul. Most are upgrades, and I'll address that when it comes to my comic book want list for 2023, what I was able to get so far. Not too many, but it's been, from what I was able to get, it's pretty cool. So what we're going to start with are some of the raw books. So I got quite a few slab books to show, but I was able to get some raw books. So let's take a look at them. I was able to get Impact #1. It's cool that it's a #1 issue, but it's also known for having the story The Master Race in it, which deals with, obviously Nazi Germany and all that stuff. So not a bad copy. I wouldn't mind upgrading it down the line, but I was able to get this for what I wanted to pay for it. Now let's get to some raw upgrades for some ECs, right? Here we have Haunt of Fear #28. This is probably a 5.0 copy. I had like a 3.5/4.0 copy and wanted to upgrade it, so here we got this one. Much better. Here's another upgrade. A nice 5.0 copy of Vault of Horror #28. This is a book that I wouldn't mind upgrading again. I've always loved the cover to this, and I'm hoping to maybe get one day a 6 or a 6.5. So we'll see what happens. But right here we have a nice raw 5.0 copy. And here we have two more raws, and they're, once again, they are upgrades. Vault of Horror #40. I had about a 3.5 copy of this book, and now I upgraded it to a nice 6.0. Very happy with that one. And the last book, again, I had like a 3.5, 4.0 copy, and I was able to upgrade it to a 6.0, Tales from the Crypt #32. If you remember, for those of you that have been around on my channel for several years, I purchased Tales from the Crypt 32, I think, at the comic book New York Comic Con back in 2018, and it was due for an upgrade. So those are all the raw books. Impact being the brand new book added to the collection, but the rest are all upgrades. Like I said in previous videos, this is really going to be the year of upgrades for me, and I'm really pleased where my collection has gone over the last 6-7 months, and I'm looking forward to the future when it comes to upgrades and maybe adding a few new books to my collection that I've never owned before. Okay, so in previous videos I've showed these two books a few times, so that's why I'm just going to show them off again, just right here at the beginning of showing all the slabs. They were, like I said, they were in other videos, but they were never in a haul video. So here we have Fantastic Four #48. I had a 5.5 copy, sold it, and I bought this one, nice 6.5 copy. Very pleased with this one. And of course, one of the biggest ones, and you know all about this, Giant Size X-Men #1. I upgraded to an 8.5. I had a 6.5 copy for many years, and I was never too impressed with that copy. I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad looking copy. It wasn't like a crappy 6.5, but I've always wanted something a little bit better. Now, I didn't think I was going to be able to get an 8.5, but the opportunity presented itself and I took it. I was planning to get a 7.5, like I did with the Wolverine, the Incredible Hulk 181. I had a 6.0 and I went to a 7.5. Well, I had a 6.5 Giant Size one. I was thinking, well, maybe I'll get a 7.5 of that too. But I wound up getting an 8.5. So those were two books that you've seen a few times already on this channel without actually them being in a traditional haul. So now let's go and show some new slabs. Now this is a brand new book to the collection, and it's one that I wouldn't mind upgrading down the line, but it doesn't pop up, and I didn't pay that much for it, but it's such a cool cover. The Shadow. Now this is volume #7, #12. Look at that. Now this is a low grade copy, and I typically don't like to buy super low grade copies. But this is, a book that doesn't pop up that much. It really doesn't. And it's such a cool book, and I didn't pay that much for it. And one day I would like to upgrade it. I might just even keep this copy in addition to getting the upgrade if one pops up. But I think this is such a cool cover. And I've never owned any of these Golden Age shadow books. And, from what I've seen over the last few months, as I started to look into them, they have some really cool covers. Who's the cover artist on this? His name is Bob Powell. Bob Powell, I believe, did quite a few of these covers and put out a lot of classic covers. And it's a shame that I don't think when it comes to pre-code horror, you hear some of the typical ones, you see Mystic. You see Chamber of Chills and books like that, Black Cat Mystery, aside from the ECs. But you don't really hear too much about the Shadow. And man, those covers are really cool. So I got that one. Now here is an upgrade. Amazing Spider-Man number 16. Nice 4.0 copy. Maybe one day I'll upgrade it again to a 5, but I'm pretty happy with this. I had a 3.0 copy of this, and I didn't like it. After a while, I just didn't like it. So I sold that one off, and I wound up buying this one. So that's nice. Now, there's another upgrade. Shocking. Here, I was able to get an upgrade of my Amazing Spider-Man 121. I upgraded to a 7.0 copy. Now, I previously had maybe a 5.5 copy raw, and it was part of my original collection. It was a book that I had since maybe 1994, but I sold it off, and I was able to get this one. Now, sometimes I get questions like, oh, don't you feel a little nostalgic for some of those books? Yeah, I guess some. But, since getting these upgrades and some of the upgrades I'm still going to show you, I haven't thought about the original ones to where I felt some sort of connection with them. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they're gone. I wish I still had them. I much rather have the ones I have right now. When I bought those books back in 93, 94, I've always wanted to get better copies, but I couldn't, because that was all due to my financial situation at the time. I was only barely a teenager, Those weren't books that I sat back and said, oh, I'm going to keep these for life. Those were books that I said that one day I'd like to get better copies of them. And I did. Speaking of upgrade, we got the 121, so it made sense for me to upgrade my 5.5 copy of 122. I upgraded my 5.5 copy to this beautiful 8.5 copy, The Death of the Green Goblin. This book, the 7.0 is nice. But man, this one's just a gorgeous copy. Absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous 8.5. And like I said, I can remember the day that I ordered the 122 from 1 Million Comics. And back then, when you put the order in, it took like forever for you to get the book. I can remember the day. It was a Saturday morning when the mailman knocked on the door and someone had a sign for it. And I went down. As soon as I heard that knock on the door, I kind of figured it was that book, and it was. And I was like super happy I got it. That's a great memory. But I don't necessarily need the book anymore. I have it up here. And that nice 8.5 on top will make me feel a lot better about it. Seriously, I don't feel any sort of connection with those things. I don't. This is the third copy I've had of this book. The first one I had, around the same time I bought the 121, 122 back in 93 or 90. It was 93 actually. 94 I think for the 121. And I had a 3.0 copy of this, and I sold it to get a 5.5 copy. Well, I sold that. And now I have a 6.5 copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 50. This is a white pager, too. So that's pretty cool. First appearance of the Kingpin and classic Ramita cover. I've always said that, upgrading and all that, it's like a ladder. You go up a couple of steps, maybe you go up one step. I'm perfectly happy with that 6.5, but maybe one day I might want to pursue a 7.5. Well, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier getting the 7.5 after selling the 6.5 than it was the 5.5. So it's just steps. Trying to get a nice collection going. Now you remember that Vault of Horror that I had? I had a 5.0 Vault of Horror, and I sold it. Vault of Horror 19, I sold it. I sold it after I got my other copy back. Now, remember I told you that I sent my Vault of Horror 19, I bought a raw copy, which I thought would get a 6, maybe at best a 6.5. I sent that off to CGC, and it was in one of my top purchases of 2021, but I had to use the 5.0 copy because that other copy wasn't back yet. Well, guess what? The Vault of Horror 19, the one I sent off to CGC, came back a couple of weeks ago. And like I said, I thought in the video, the last video I made when I was talking about it, I said I thought I was going to get maybe a 6.0, 6.5. Much, it's still better than the 5.0 I got, right? I had. Well, I wound up getting this 7.0. Finally back. And the other one now is gone. It's amazing, with that book, and this is I think this is a very underrated Johnny Craig cover. With that book, when I said I was listing it for sale, people reached out to me like, oh, I'd be interested in that. But once they heard the price, they weren't interested anymore. But it sold. It sold for my asking price. So some of these books are not that easy to find. And the last one I saved is another upgrade. Last book for the haul. I'm super in love with this book. I had a 5.0 copy of this. I purchased it at the last New York Comic Con I went to, which was in 2019. I haven't been to a New York Comic Con in a while, and I don't know when I'm ever going to go back, to be quite honest. With COVID and all that stuff, it's just too crowded, or at least my memory of it would be too crowded, and very likely that I would bring home something that I don't want to bring home. And it's expensive anyway. So the point is, the last New York Comic Con that I was at was in 2019. I purchased my original copy of this. It was a 5.0. I was like, well, I want this book. I don't necessarily need a better grade. But in time, I started saying, oh, geez, I'd like to get maybe a 7.0 of this or a 7.5, right? So I eventually sold it off. And then I was finally able to get this copy. Here we have Conan #1. A nice 8.0 copy. I love this book. And like I said, when I purchased it at the New York Comic Con, that was one of the books I said, this is probably something I should have in my collection because I am a Conan fan, and I like him. So I was thinking, I don't need anything super big. I don't need a super high grade copy. So I saw a 5.0 white pager, and I was like, what the hell, I'll get it. But then after a while, I said, I really like this book. I should probably try to get a better copy. And down the line, I said to myself, that's exactly what I'm going to do, and I just did. And here it is. Conan #1. Nice 8.0. So that's my haul. That's the first haul of 2023. On my want list for 2023, I wrote down EC Comics, for upgrades and all that stuff. So I was able to satisfy that number, sort of. That's a rotating number throughout the year. I'm always going to be upgrading ECs. So even though I managed to fulfill that, I still continue to do it throughout the rest of the year. And there's still others that I plan to upgrade and bring into the collection this year. It's just a little bit of patience, finding the right copy, finding the right price, all of that. So I hope you enjoyed this haul. More to come. Take care, everyone.